Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and today we have the head cam on, and that's something that's pretty exciting. And today it's just not going to be a super long video, but I wanted to talk about something that I thought was pretty interesting, which would be live blades versus false edges, and kind of which one is right for you. Now, personally, I'm of the disposition that, as long as you have a balisong, that's all that really matters. And if you prefer to flip, live blades, then go for it. But if you prefer to flip false edges, also go for it. Just to start off as a disclaimer, YouTube, this isn't sharp, this is a dull toy, this is for playing with, please don't harass me. But yeah, anyways, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe if you enjoy the videos, guys, with the notification bell and all that good stuff if you'd like to see more. And yeah, let's jump straight into it. So, first thing off, my Serif here is, from Machine Wise, they don't make them in false unsharpened forms. But my Gaboon here is completely unsharpened. My Serif I've never dulled, so my Serif is effectively just stock. And I really, really enjoy my Serif. And I think there is something about the live blade as a balisong that just makes it a little bit more special. It requires, obviously, a lot more concentration, when you're doing something even simple, right? And it's just something that I do really appreciate. Wow. That's always fantastic. I hope that doesn't go on for too long, otherwise the video is going to be shorter than I expected it to be. Also, just appreciate, ignoring the wind, the sound of the Serif. It sounds so fantastic. But yeah, personally, I think that the live blade is a fantastic option, especially for those of you in places where it's legal and easy to get a hold of. I don't advise really trying to get, contraband in your country. And I can see the cool factor, as I'm going to call it, of flipping a live blade. It's kind of, oh hey, dude, there's like actually danger now, so, some of the more snobby balisong community members will say that, you're not a real man unless you flip a balisong, or a real woman, or, being inclusive and all that. But, you're not a proper balisong flipper if you don't flip a live blade. And I just have to disagree, because trainers offer a good enough experience that you can still get good at flipping these things, which are essentially toys, realistically. They're not very utilitarian. Balisongs are not fantastic knives. Obviously, they're long, they're great box cutters, but I mean, you got two floppy handles, which sound fantastic. Oh my goodness. Oh, dude, I need to flip this thing more, especially outside. Goodness me. Sorry, I just forget sometimes how much I really enjoy the Serif, especially on a day like this where it's performing very well. But yeah, I really like the idea of a live blade. Now, of course, nicking yourself isn't very practical. You can see my blade isn't maintained in terms of I don't keep it super sharp, but I don't dull it on purpose or anything. And so, the blade is possibly slightly duller than from factory, in fact, almost certainly, but it is not something that I actively go to reduce the sharpness of it, especially because the way Machine Wise do it is actually quite good in terms of it doesn't nick you too much. I personally find that their sharpening is actually quite good. Their edge geometry is enough so that, just doing this, it's not going to nick you. Although that tip is, it's a bit of a different story. It's not crazy sharp like the Chinese balisongs. Like, those things come in so sharp. But it is the only part, actually, that's actually ever got me. Sometimes when I first got the Serif, it would get me kind of there-ish, just because the blade is much longer than it seems. And overall, I mean, getting really sharp live blades, not really my thing. But I think for those of you who want a knife that can be used as a utilitarian tool, I can really understand why you'd want a live blade. And also, in my personal experience, and I'm sure most people who have flipped both trainers and live blades will agree with me, is that they end up flipping a little bit better than trainers, whether that be trainer counterparts or just a live blade against a trainer in general. With some of the machine-wise trainers actually performing the best that I've seen in terms of kind of closeness to a live blade, but they still lack, you know, a little bit of that comfort when doing chaplains. I'm not sure what it is about it, but actually having material here, like, you know, solid material is actually really, really beneficial. And some trainers, they just lack the way that the Balisong flows, especially this Balisong with no hole pattern. You know, you've got everything is solid, right? So aerodynamically, it fans really well. And honestly, I can't complain. I can't complain about how the Serif fans or flips, and I find that's usually true with most of the live blades that I have. And just, there's something missing from trainers, you know, that whole pattern, either it's a ring that you don't like, or it doesn't fan as well, which is usually my problem with trainers. They don't fan as well, and they don't carry as much weight. You know, the weight distribution of this is very well placed. To get this kind of weight distribution in a trainer would be rather tricky, because obviously you get, I mean, along the cross axis here, the cross section, sorry, you know, you have a lot less material here and a lot more material here, but you can't really have this on a trainer blade because this has to not be sharpenable, and you get all these other sorts of issues, which is where we bring in our good friend false edge or unsharpened live blade, whichever you prefer, or even dulled live blade. Now, what this does is it is kind of like an in-between from the trainer to the live blade, leaning more so towards the live blade end of things. Now, of course, this is unfinished, right? So you can see here it's actually completely flat. However, there is still usually a bit of a tip, and you'll find that on most false edges. They're usually more rounded off than on a live blade tip, whereas this is like just straight up unsharpened, and so this is a full tip, I guess. But what you will also notice is that there are still some sharp edges on this guy, right? Like I said, the tip is usually one that can still get you a little bit. I've not had any conditions with this guy, you know, it's pretty well rounded off. I think the tip is the only place where you could really get nicked, but this bite handle indicator, you could say, like this bit here, and then also the actual end of the choil here at the kind of foot of the blade, that is pretty not nice. That's probably honestly the bit that's going to cut you the most on something that is dull like this, which trainers obviously also suffer from that part of the Balisong as well. And so I think for those of you who are either scared of live blades or simply don't enjoy needing plasters on your fingers and not being able to flip and things like that, I definitely do recommend getting a false edge, or even just dulling your live blades to the point where they are either working sharp or entirely dull. I remember my Balisong, my Bali Plus Kraken, was entirely dulled, obviously except for the tip, simply because then it would allow me to learn, you know, moves like, I'll say like the scissor, if I could pull one off. Okay, moves like the scissor, which I did learn on the Kraken, and the Kraken flies a bit better than this. I'm not used to how this guy flies a little bit. And you still get a little bit of that intimidation and demand of respect from a live blade, but you don't get, that's actually the bad side. So you get all the flipping benefits. It flips much better aerodynamically. They usually fan so much better. I almost will always go for a live bladed option, or like an infilled option of blade rather than a trainer that's got loads of holes in it, just because they will simply treat you better when it comes to flipping. I find they roll over more consistently, they aerial more consistently, especially fanning. They fan absolutely delightfully, and there is not much I can complain when it comes to fanning performance on most live blades, to be honest, unless they are like super heavy in the handles, you know, just that. But that's the handles being the problem. I still find that the blade still goes through the air quite nicely. Now, which one is really better for you? It really depends what you want to use your Balisong for. If your Balisong is, like most people, just a toy, just something to flip around that you think is kind of cool, you know, skill toy, hit that autismo gizmo neurons in your brain, No offense. That was just a humorous, satirical joke. Then I do think that this guy will be better for you, right? The false edge. Simply because you get all the benefits of flipping a live blade with minimal downsides. You still get the tip, so you got to watch out for aerials when learning them. But you get the comfort, and the extra flippability that live blades provide you. Oh, dude, I need to actually get better at like certain tricks. Do you know what I mean? There we go. And you also get the look of the live blade, right? I mean, especially this, which is like a glorified trainer, you could say. I mean, obviously I can sharpen it and then it's actually a live blade, but you get this beautiful like milling line patterns. And I mean, the new Arm Shark live blade has milling lines, so you can actually get false edge blades that are very much in detail. And Balisongs offer obviously a bunch of false edges. In fact, all their live blade Balisongs are false edge Balisongs. They aren't sharpened. And you can sharpen them yourself if you'd like that, or you can keep them as a false edge, which I think is the better option. Obviously, I don't suggest you go and sharpen knives yourself if you have no experience. But I do think that, oh my goodness, now I remember why I like this thing. You know, sometimes I'm in my room, I'm flipping this thing, and like I'm like, dude, should I sell the Serif? And then I come here and I film a video, and it's outside in the grass, and this thing is absolutely stunning. And it just flips well, and it's like, ugh, I love it. Oh my goodness, my fingers are a bit too grippy right now, so this thing is getting a little bit stuck on my hands. There we go. I really am enjoying doing the kind of helix aerial. Ooh. Especially on this guy here. I mean, it's just nice and light, man. You just flip this like there's no tomorrow. And you can do moves like that, which I wouldn't even dare do on my Serif, you know? I'm not going to do those multi-spin aerials, at least at the speed that I normally do them, right? I mean, if you've seen me flip my Tsunami, it's something that I love to do on that. But on this, I mean, I know the timing, and I know how it would flip in the Serif, but obviously it's just a little bit of fear factor, you could say. But yeah, in conclusion, wrapping the video to an end, if you're worried about live blades, stay on trainers. If you'd like to experience a live blade, but you don't want the cutting aspect, which I would argue is sort of necessary to build your respect for Balisongs, then get the false edge. That way you can still kind of flip as if it's a trainer, which is what I do with the Gaboon, to be honest. I can flip this without paying too much attention, because I mean, you can just do this. You know, you can do all this that you want, I mean, even on the other side, and you're at very low risk of injuring yourself whatsoever. I mean, the Balisong pinching you as a trainer is going to hurt more than necessarily an injury this will give you. Maybe, yeah, I mean, you can even Ring of Shame on this guy, which in all fairness, not Ring of Shame, sorry, you can bite handle chaplain, which in all fairness, the Serif is also one of those enigmas where you can also bite handle chaplain, which I'm not going to do at higher speed, because then that's just asking to get cut. But, dude, this cutting in the background, shout out to my neighbor. But yeah, in conclusion, I would say get a false edge, unless you really want the live blade and you want to be a bit more of a true Balisong flipper. No, I mean, the only reason for this is to have the utilitarian value of having an actual knife. And personally, I also like that I can use this as a very decorated box cutter, or just to open whatever, or to cut stuff. I mean, it's actually handy having a knife, you know, around the house I carry one of these in my pocket, or one of these, and you know, it's nice, just, well, you carry it, open it, and you cut something open, and there you go. It's just useful having a knife around. And that's why, you know, I usually carry a little pocket knife as well, just to have something to... It's useful to have a sharp object, you know, sometimes you need to cut some stuff, and you see, it doesn't work super well with that, but with the Serif, you know, it comes, like, super easy. I mean, obviously, you can force it with this as well. Oh, okay, actually, that's actually quite difficult. But, you know, with the grass, it just comes super easy. So, having an actual knife, it is pretty handy. A false edge, though, as a pure flipping Balisong, is probably the better option, because you can flip for longer sessions with lower risk with all the same performance. And I mean, here's the top tip, guys. You know those professional Balisong flippers who like do competitions and stuff, which I'm not sure if that's cool or sad, but those guys, right, who are very, very good flippers, all their live blades are dull, right? They aren't stupid sharp. Like, they can cut, but they're more like working sharp. Do you know what I mean? Like, they are to the point where they can mess up a few times and they're not losing their hands. They're not getting stitches. I don't understand how people get stitches on their Balisongs unless you literally catch it like this and it just goes. But anyways, yeah, having a dull live blade is better than having, okay, not dull to the point where it's like, you know, Rusty the Crab, but having something that isn't going to immediately cut you, in my opinion, is better than having something that punishes you for like the tiniest little, like that, right? And so that's why I enjoy these guys, because they are unlikely to injure you unless you catch an aerial wrong. And so it just is a step into making the Balisong hobby safer and more accessible, especially for those of you who are younger in my audience and all that good stuff. Anyways, I've rambled on for more than long enough. And so I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.